Can you hear me? Okay, so it's 9:30 and time for me to resume this inquiry. And this inquiry is made by Wyke Farms Limited and Andrew Hopkins Concrete Limited, as you all know, and it's for the erection of 200 dwellings at land north of Ansford Hill, Ansford. The reminders, so if people could turn your mobile phones off and sign the attendance sheet for today's proceedings. First of all, today we just need to finish up with the interested parties and local residents that didn't have an opportunity to talk yesterday. I've got 3 names before me that I'm going to run through and check if you're here. First of all, just to check if there's anything that needs to be raised before we start with that on either side. Anything to raise before we kick off with the interested parties?
No, I assume we're talking logistics at the next stage.
Just anything like that might have occurred to you. Yep.
We need to talk about IT and how we'll proceed. I don't know whether you want to address that now or after interested parties.
I think for now we'll continue as we were yesterday, listening to interested parties, and then I will address ongoing issues with the inquiry. Yeah.
Ma'am, then the only small points were about conditions which you now have, I believe.
Not the paper one,
the paper
don't.
version.
Yeah.
That will need to be loaded to the online version of documents, but the council will make arrangements.
Okay. Yeah.
To do that.
Anything on the other side?
No, thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to check if these people are here. So David Antel. Tom Lennon. Gillian Price. Somebody got the memo. Right, okay. Gillian, are you ready and in a position to make your statement?
Going to stand if that's all right. Yeah.
And do you have it written down that I can have?
I do. Yeah. Can I just check? Can you hear me at the back? Okay. Right. Good morning, madam. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gillian Price, and I'm a resident of Ansford. My main concern with this matter is the main road, the A371, and it's the main routeway for haulage vehicles passing through the town, most of them heading towards the A303. I live halfway up Ansford Hill, in fact, on Lower Ansford, and I live towards the road end, perhaps I might say almost on top of the road, and I live just beyond the blind bend. I have to say, being in this position, I do hear, I do see, I do witness things related to traffic and pedestrian issues that I think many people would miss. Certainly a visiting highways inspector on a number of visits would not see everything that I see. And I've got to say, I'm probably speaking on behalf of residents also living along the road. It's already a potential safety hazard, and I'm talking about the stretch of road from Station Hill at the bottom right up to the turning today where you've turned into Cary Hall and Ansford Road. Not so much the vehicles, the number of vehicles that I'm concerned about, or the speed. It's actually the size. I've lived in the area now for 3 years, and I've noticed over this period of time an increase in the size of heavy vehicles, lorries, haulage lorries travelling along this road. We heard yesterday that every 9th vehicle is a large haulage lorry. And I'm actually talking about vehicles that are now possibly 40 tonnes, 40 tonne plus. Vehicles that not only rigid, but are articulated and probably run up to 3 axles. They are huge. I see from my kitchen window occasions where these vehicles stack up the hill because the road is so narrow that they find it difficult to pass one another, particularly towards the bend in the road. They ease slowly around one another, and you see 1, 2, 3 backing up. It's just an occasion where there's a lot of heavy traffic coming up. As a result of this, I find walking down that stretch of road, fairly narrow footpath, quite unpleasant. And I'm talking about the one going down towards Station Road. And I've forgotten to add at this stage, the access point to the new planned site is actually bang in the middle of this potentially hazardous stretch of road. The one and only footpath on one side is narrow. And actually walking down that footpath, I witness people, they don't walk in pairs, they walk in single file. It's interesting, it's like a snake going down the road. As you walk down the road, particularly when there's the heavy vehicles passing, there is definite air turbulence. You get sucked into the slipstream of the vehicles, and then you bounce back as the vehicles pass. Not very pleasant. About 2 years ago, I was actually coming up the hill on my own, and very heavy super tanker was coming fairly fast down the road. And all of a sudden, it caught me unawares. The wing mirror of a car caught my arm. Fortunately, I had a quilted jacket on and it just glanced off, but it did give me a shock. And I thought, had it been a rigid pushchair or a group of children walking along the pavement, the outcome might have been different. So I really am concerned. There's only one footpath to walk along at that side. Interestingly, a few weeks ago, the hedge was cut, but for most of the last few years, it's been very brambly, spilling over halfway into the footpath. So we've just restricted to a very narrow area. This narrow footpath actually continues right up to the school, and I'll come to that later. Just going on about the stretch of road and the traffic along here, there is a blind bend. It's sort of a right turning. I live, I suppose, just beyond the blind bend, at a point where pedestrians walking from the town cross the road to the public footpath to Monarch's Way to go down to the railway station. It's dangerous, positively dangerous. I have seen numerous people walking across, they get halfway, you cannot see the other half of the road, and then they see a car whizzing around the bend and they have to race across. I've seen that on numerous times. You take your life in your hands, and I'll tell you, factor in dogs, grandchildren, and it's no joke. I don't do it very often now, and if I do it, I run. Wonder what is going to happen when we get the 200 houses. I really do. Wonder how the people will manage the vehicles, how they'll manage the crossings, how they'll manage getting anywhere in the town. And actually, I challenged the appellant's claim yesterday that there'll be minimum reliance on cars. in this site. I don't think that's going to be the case. It's very difficult to walk anywhere. There are no facilities around there. You need to cross the road to walk to the town, to the doctors, the chemist, to the dentist, to the schools. And again, I'll come on to the schools in a moment. There is no safe crossing place currently. And if you try and make them, you've got to really think about where the footpaths are, road width. Is it possible even to make additional footpaths? And I don't think so. The housing development would or will add more cars to the roads on a daily basis. It will add more white vans delivering. Plenty of white vans coming up the hill already, in addition to the lorries and the vehicles and the cars, which exceed the speed limit, as we well know from Dr. Mark Main's study yesterday. And it was interesting that his study supported a lot of my observations of the road and pedestrian issues in this area. I wonder, actually, when they are cut off by a railway line, by two sides of a busy road, how they're ever going to feel part of the community, because they're going to have to hop in their cars really to get to anywhere. And I was just thinking this morning, and as I was coming here, there is Station Road to walk along. It's quite a tortuous route into the town. There is Lower Ansford. Actually, Lower Ansford doesn't have a footpath. It's just a road. And this is the sort of shortest route into the town. More cars, more air pollution. And actually, the access point for the site would make cars slow down. It would make cars sort of turning out, have to accelerate up the hill, braking, pulling out, create all sorts of issues. And actually, just thinking on the blind bend, cars leaving the access point would accelerate up the hill anyway, and there would be a further problem to people crossing to the Monarch's Way path. And just finally, on the point of speed, the lorries do trundle speed down the hill. I can hear them, bump, bump, bump of their freight weights on the suspension or against their tyres. It really is something to hear on days, bump, 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 and they come so quickly. If they've got to come round the bend to stop because someone's coming out of that access point, it's just, you'd like to think what could happen. Walking to school actually is a huge issue for the young people who will live on this development. Primary school children, obviously they will head towards the road corner. Can you put a crossing on a road corner to go along Station Road to the primary school? I don't think they'll do that. I think they will go in the car. Secondary students will walk up the hill to Ansford Academy. And that is assuming Ansford Academy has spaces. Do we know that? What is the capacity? If the capacity does not meet the needs of the numbers, they'll be hopping into cars and going off, more cars on the road. If you try actually to walk from the site up to the academy, and I think local people will probably know, and Mum, I would really request that you do this walk up to the school. You will realise that you follow a narrow path on the left-hand side. There is no path on the right-hand side. The path is so narrow, it's also at one point banked up. I don't know whether it's cut into the rock or whatever means of extending the pavement. And guess what? The path stops and you've got to cross the road. You cross the road, not slowly. You have to actually go quickly across the road because you don't know what's coming behind you, what's coming in front of you. And we're expecting secondary students, school students, to cross the road. Or do we make another crossing? Well, a little way up the road, there is actually a zebra crossing, but it's not at the point that's needed. Are we going to stop traffic again to make another school crossing? I mean, that's something I'm afraid we need to consider. Go ahead. Young people who walk along the road are not always civil like adults. They're chatting, they've got their headphones on, they're jostling on the pavements, you know, sometimes two abreast. I, as a parent, would not want my young child to walk up that road in the current situation with the traffic, with these enormous lorries whizzing past. As I said, you get sucked in for a minute and then sort of spewed out. In my opinion, the issue of public safety is paramount in making this decision. I fear that the proposed site will make an already vulnerable area even more unsafe. I'll finish on a sort of a light final note. I could say that the folk living on the site are never going to miss a train. The tannoy system is pretty loud, and on a clear day, we can hear it crystally clear, and they're going to be greeted. The late running train from Penzance will arrive in 6 minutes, heading towards Paddington, or whatever they say, but it's frequent. I can hear it at the top of the hill. I think halfway down the hill or next to the railway line, it will be very clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to check again, as some other people have arrived, whether we have David Antel or Tom Lennon. Was there anyone else that wished to speak today? Okay, thank you. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to say some words about yesterday and let you know where we're going forward and how we're going forward with the inquiry. So forgive me for reading from the screen because I want to be very clear about what I say today. My primary role as a planning inspector is to determine planning appeals, and this includes holding planning inquiries. To do this, I need to be able to hear and consider all of the evidence before me. That includes listening to and taking on board the views of the various parties, including local representatives and residents. Furthermore, I must be satisfied all interested parties are able to listen to and participate with the proceedings in a safe manner, having regard to the fact that COVID-19 is still an ongoing concern. However, a large proportion of my day yesterday was dealing with issues with the venue in terms of capacity and sound, as well as issues with online streaming, which were not acceptable and not conducive to my being able to effectively run this planning inquiry. These were issues outside of my control. Furthermore, because of the issues with the venue, I was subjected to unpleasant and rude comments and behaviour from some members of the public in attendance. This is also unacceptable. We all deserve to be treated with respect whilst going about our work, and this must not be allowed to continue. Streaming issues before I open the inquiry this morning. In light of issues and unreliable online streaming and participation, I've come to the view that for me to be able to effectively run this inquiry, it must revert to a virtual event. In spite of the challenges yesterday, there was considerable value in my being able to hear face to face the views of local residents and representatives in this case. I also intend to officially visit the site and surrounding area today. I stress again that for me to be able to run this inquiry, it must revert to a virtual event. I'd like to seek the formal consent from representatives for the appellant and council on this way forward.
Thank you. The appellants support and endorse what you said, and particularly having regard to the legal requirement, statute and regulation on you. So we wholeheartedly support that approach. Thank you.
Similar position from the council, all that to be endorsed.
Therefore, going to adjourn the inquiry today. Alternative dates have been able to be agreed between myself and the main parties, and I will give you those dates now so that you at least have some certainty of when this will resume. These dates are to be the 24th of November, 2nd and 3rd of December. All interested parties will be notified, and the inquiry will then resume as a virtual event. I'll ask the council to notify everyone and give you the details of how to join. That's all I wanted to say. Did anybody have any comments?
Will
No, because I'm simply adjourning. So the inquiry has started. We've made use of the day that we had yesterday, hearing interested parties and doing site visits. So it's effectively started, but because it's very difficult and the problems that we've got to continue in this room, we're simply adjourning and then resuming on a later date.
similarly intended to stream, but
It's not me, just to be clear.
I'm sorry. Planning authority will be intended. Possible for interested third parties to respond to you if you ask for additional comments. Do more team.
It's with the council this morning. Shall I say, or would you like to say how we're thinking of?
Yes.
Yeah.
My understanding is that it'll also be members of the public to watch and also those interested parties and myself in inspection. And notification will come out from the district council. Hearings regarding actually coming to the district council.
You have the email addresses of all the interested. So that we can access it, Teams and so forth.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that's obviously that's to go forward. So I'm sure it's something of this and working with the details available.
Similar way as you were all notified about this inquiry, it will proceed in the same manner.
The 24th of November via
If they wish to be on the Teams call and make their representations, then I can make provision for that.
thank you very much. Ask you, yes, about the site visit and the arrangements for that. Is it your intention to have an accompanied site visit? Quite a lot of the third parties mentioned things they wanted you to look at. rough idea about the site visit and when it will be? I mean, is it like after the 3rd of December?
I think I said it's going to be today whilst I'm here in Castle Cove, because obviously I don't live or work here. So I'm going to make the most of today and do the visit. But my intention was that it, again, just because this is the way we've been running with COVID and so on, and actually it allows me to better concentrate if I'm not being followed around like the Pied Piper. My intention was to do it as an unaccompanied site visit if I can access everywhere. I've already seen a lot of the site anyway, but I believe I can access all points.
Well, the appellant's point of view would perfectly agree with that, and I think give you permission to walk across the field if you'd like to do that, the field site.
Yeah.
Feel free to do that.
Okay. I'm just going to go to council. Just bear with. Yeah.
So that was on the site visit reads.
On the green list of viewpoints, we gave you there were 2 plans.
Yeah.
And on the second plan, location 18. I realised, apologies, that very slightly the wrong place. You have that plan 18 is sort of north.
Oh yeah. Oh right. Okay. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. The lady at the back.
Safe environment here now. I think yes, particularly unusual circumstances where the local community came out, showed support, and wanted to see what was actually going to be happening. I made a comment yesterday. I didn't think we'd have those numbers today.
Yes.
I think today's evidence of that, and I'm just so much effort is put in. People could attend if they want. By going on a virtual one, I think we're the rights of an awful lot of people who probably in this community don't have the facilities to follow them.
Inquiries in the past 15 months. Unless there's a, I mean, generally the virtual inquiries were extremely don't have access to the internet, then
Problem in this area,
well,
but
well,
and that's purely because of the rural area.
okay, but like all I say is I've done inquiries from Cumbria to Cornwall in the past 15 months.
And I just respond to that, please.
Yeah.
So a couple of points, because I have given this a great deal of thought overnight. Firstly, I can't run this inquiry with a microphone that I have to pass around, listening to evidence. And that's going to impact on my ability to be able to sit here and do my job considering evidence if I am dealing with microphones and sound issues. I also can't be sure that we are not going to get numbers like that again. Things may happen in the inquiry that elicit a big turnout again, and I cannot allow that to happen. Because of yesterday, there may be people at home that feel they cannot now attend, and without good online coverage, that is unfair, and that is a problem in terms of participation. So those are my main thoughts of why I can't continue. And I would also add that I've held a virtual inquiry in Templecombe back in July, and it worked compared to this incredibly well. So I believe that this is the best way forward. Oh, sorry, just the chat behind you.
Personally,
most of one of the streets. Completely cut, unbroken. Very, very bad. Fortunate to have fast broadband. It's widespread, it's not just. But I was rather looking.
Yeah, I too was looking forward to my first in-person event. So I understand the disappointment. Thank you for your apology. It's kind of you. I'm not the IT person. That's not my role in this. However, you know, I'm happy to throw ideas out there, and there's internet obviously in this room, and whether the parish council could live stream it here for people that are struggling with internet at home. But I say I'm not an IT expert, so I will have to leave that to the council.
Mark, yesterday I was going to give you copies of the suggested 30-minute cycle. Answer the parish council, Care for Cary and CPRE, and I wonder if you would like to have copies of the.
You can certainly distribute them, but I believe I have a copy of it. Got them.
Your guidance. Personal inquiry, virtual inquiry.
Probably because these are still fairly new times, I don't know. But what I do know is that how an inquiry is run is at the discretion of the inspector.
Do virtual stuff, we just obviously.
Well, it didn't really have an ID number, but I guess we can give it an ID number for the walking tour. I didn't actually receive. Oh, okay. Well, that was attached to the comments from that person. So that ID number would apply. I'm not sure I actually got Gillian Price's copy of your, yeah. Then what do you make the walking tour ID? Have we got to? On ID 14.
Thanks so much.
Yes, I think the last one was ID 14, so this would be ID 15.
15 for the walk and 16 for Gillian Price. Okay, any final comments?
I'm just glancing through the walking route. One issue these days indicated was closed, but this is point 12, paragraph 12. It says effectively the staff. Directly from that end of the station onto the path that goes along the valley. The other path walk. Then turn right and walk past the
Okay. I may, have some discretion about how I walk this route. It's, but that's useful to know. Thank you. Okay. If there's no further comments, then to adjourn. Good. Okay. I'm going to adjourn now then at 10:05, and we will resume on the 24th of November. Thank you very much.